welcome back to the Lazy A-Hole Ranch, everyone. My name is Allie, and we are building an arch cabin here in Colorado. And this week, we are welding the supports across the front and the back of the arch cabin, as well as from that support up to the main peak. We've picked up our metal, and Mike is making preparations to get everything up in the air where it needs to be, so we can do that weld. After that, it'll be on to end caps, and then we'll be doing the insulation and roofing. Mike is making a couple of pieces here that are simulating wall studs in order to both get the metal beam up to the correct height as well as hold it in position so he could weld it into place. Next, Mike used ratchet straps to both pull the end rib and the simulated wall stud into the correct position so that everything was plumb and ready to go. Then we needed to measure the distance between the two ribs at the very top of that simulated stud in order to know the basic overall length of that piece of metal. From the edge of this block where it hits the rib to the edge of that block that hits the rib, I measured 16 feet 6 inches. Mike is now measuring the angle and getting it level. And that tool is an angle finder.
Angle gauge.
It was at this point we realized that we needed a few things to get this project done, so we had to quit for the day. First and foremost, we needed gas to run the generator in order to run the welder. We also needed to get some longer lag bolts that we are going to run into the rim joist because we felt the ones that were in there just really weren't long enough to do the job well. And we needed some primer to put on the beams after we get them into position. So I'm assuming that you're putting the angle as close to the edge as you can on this side.
Yeah, just to save material.
Next up, it was time to cut the 3-inch square tube to the proper angle. He measured out the overall length of the 3-inch square tube in order to mark the angle on the opposite side and then cut it. After getting the metal cut to the overall length and angle, it was time to measure and mark the notches for the beams. Now, the way the instructions are written, the cross member needs to be flush with the outside of the ribs. So Mike offset in 2 inches for the thickness of the ribs, and then removed material from the front and sides of the square tube to get it flush as indicated. Then Mike used an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel to remove the material from those 3 sides. And finally, it was time to haul this thing up and weld it into place. The first thing you always do when you're welding is clean your materials down to bare metal so that you get a good connection. I wanted to make sure I got a good close-up of this notch so you can see what I was talking about. It's a lot better seeing it, isn't it? It was way too hard to describe it. So Mike is making this plumb.
Alright. 197.5, so we'll certainly have clearance. Shit.
Uh-oh.
Got fucked by trig.
Oh no.
I didn't take into account the angle, which is why we measure the first one. Find out where we fucked up.
So what do we need to fix? So we're gonna have a gap?
Well, we'll see how bad the gap is. If it's like a 1/4 inch on the side, I can fill that.
Once Mike made sure everything was level and plumb, he clamped the crossmember to the ribs using a couple pairs of vice grips to maintain its position during welding. Then Mike welded the piss out of it using 030 flux core wire from Weld City on Amazon. We love this wire, and I'll leave a link below in the description. We use the MIG machine because the stick machine is a microprocessor machine and they don't always like running on dirty power caused by the generator. We've got one side tacked up and one to go. And I just want to take a moment to share my excitement with you. I got a new patron on Patreon for October. Thanks Doug, Tara, and Risa. I'm glad to have you guys on board, and I'm hoping to add more tiers very, very soon. Look for maybe a Soap of the Month club. And if you're interested in buying soap, or if you're interested in the costs associated with building an arched cabin, visit our website, lazyaholeranch.com. I'll leave a link in the description below. First bar is up, 3 more to go. So Mike, anything that you would do differently right now?
Well, aside from the failing on trig, on 2 inches this way is not 2 inches that way. Not really.
That went pretty smoothly.
And that was kind of brilliant with the like the stand-in wall studs, because we're thinking about angle iron and all this stuff. Just put it on top of what's going to be there.
Mike is going to measure the point in the center. We still haven't figured out how we're going to get the welder up there, because we have to go from the center there to the peak.
Yeah, that part will be another education. I hate to lean on it too much until shit's kind of tied together more. We could strap to this and pull at a diagonal that way off something as far back as we can get it at the bottom. Take the slack out of it, and then I'd feel okay about laying the ladder up there and doing that. Probably just big ass ratchet straps.
You might have to shave a little bit off, huh?
Not much, about a 16th.
Okay, so definitely support your beam in the middle to get an accurate measurement. And when we went to put the center support up, we realized that there was a little sag in that beam across, which resulted in us having to trim up the centerpiece a little bit, shore it up with another stud piece, and then ultimately we had to tack on some kind of dog ears to kind of hold it in position on that center ridge beam. Mike used this really awesome square from Fireball Tools to make sure everything was at a perfect right angle and clamped it into place. Dang, we ran out of gas. Huh?
Got 2 corners tacked.
Well, we ran out of gas today, so tomorrow we're just gonna have to make a gas run in the morning. But we have some house guests coming, so it may have to wait a couple of days. We got it partway done. As the days grow shorter and the cold creeps in to blanket the ridges and valleys of the Rocky Mountains, I find myself becoming more introspective, withdrawn. Friends and family always seem to pop in just when I need it most, to remind me to take time for the important things in life. Adventure, laughter, celebration, love. I love you. And if you love this video, check out this one where we put up the house kit. Have a great rest of your week. Bye! It's Mike's birthday.
Oh, look at that. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mike. Happy birthday to you.